Yo, yo, yo. What's up, Don? What's up, Philly? How are we?
Doing good. What's going on, Rich?
Man, it's just another great day to feel 4-0, bud. Another great day to feel 4-0.
Things
Holy
are looking up, Rich.
Hassan Reddick, what is he? Defensive Player of the Week?
It's the third consecutive week that we've had an Eagles player be Player of the Week. Jalen Hurts, Player of the Month.
It just feels good.
It does. It does feel good.
It just feels fucking right. And I think that's the best part of it. It just feels good to be an Eagles fan right now. I mean, what a game on Sunday. We'll talk about that when Joe pops on. What a game. But it's just, things are just looking up for us, bud. I mean, I love the football that I'm seeing. Miles Sanders, holy cow, thank you. Waiting for that game for a few years.
Right, he's been holding on to that one since Penn State.
Yeah, he's like, I think I can do this NFL thing. He's like, they just got to give me the ball 22 times. And it has to be the perfect rainy condition for me. Give me a hurricane weather, and I got this. Right. Remnants of the shady snow game. So I was like, you know what?
Yeah, right. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a monster day for Shady too. Was that a career day for Shady too?
That was a career day for Shady and a career day for Miles in the rain. And then for Nick Sirianni to bring his son, Miles Sirianni, on his lap. And they talked about it. And he's like, Miles is our guy going forward. Like, Miles is our number one running back. It's like, that's the reassurance you needed from your coach. And it just shows you the confidence they have.
I'm going to circle back to, that press conference in final thoughts.
Yes, I like that. What's up, Chris?
What's going on? Adam, what's going on?
What's up, dude?
Soon to be 5-0. Yo, listen, from everything that I hear, that Arizona team is in shambles.
Mm-hmm.
It's not looking like they're playing like a cohesive unit.
Yeah, no, they're not. They look terrible.
Yeah.
It's just you can't sleep on them. But they look terrible again. We'll circle back to that in a little bit. We're going to open up the show. We're going to talk some fantasy, guys.
Real fantasy action, Rich.
Real fantasy football action.
How are you feeling fantasy wise?
It's been a really weird year. I love my teams. I made a trade with my dad I wasn't really happy about in my home league, but I was getting some bad offers. I was getting offered who was it? Amari Cooper and Antonio Gibson for Aaron Jones. Had to shoot that down. My one buddy who's trying to sell the farm wants to offer Devontae Adams for my two worst players, but my first round pick next year. It's redraft. I'm not ever making that trade. And I also don't want him to tank because I don't think that's fun. And
Gotcha.
Playing against him, it's just kind of BS. Like, I'm not giving you Allen Robinson, who's my worst player, and somebody else who I don't even know who would be my second worst player, just for you to tank. And then my other leagues, it's weird years, when you have Herbert, Stephon Diggs, and Alvin Kamara, and Mike Williams, and it's like, oh, you have a great team on paper, and statistically they do okay, but you're not winning. You're just kind of like, what the fuck am I doing wrong?
Right.
So, I had to shake it up. So, my pops, I said, hey, Dad, I'm like, I got Dalvin Cook on the block. I'm like, I need a wide receiver. So he says, all right, I'll give you Michael Pittman, Kamara, and yesterday it was Darius Toney or Nelson Aguilar, and I'm like, I don't want any of those guys. And he's like, I'll take Dalvin Cook, DJ Moore, and Jeff Wilson. I'm like, I really don't want to give up those dudes, but nobody was sending good offers. Nobody was sending anything realistic, so I sent him DJ Moore, Dalvin Cook, and Jeff Wilson, and I got back Devontae Parker. He's getting dropped. Pittman and Kamara. So, it's a good shakeup for my pops. It's a good shakeup for me. I don't think it's anybody wins on either side. It's just a nice shakeup to see what happens. How about you, Don?
It's one of those scenarios where it's like everybody, nobody wins, but everybody doesn't lose either.
Yeah, it's tough because, I'm kind of taking the approach this year. Sometimes I don't make the fairest of offers, which I get. But, I was actually trying to look at it like, okay, this guy's the number 6 wide receiver. Like, I was trying to trade Marquise Brown and a few other guys, Kareem Hunt, some draft picks, and I forget the other player. And I was trying to get A.J. Brown back and Najee Harris. And it was essentially a wash because A.J. Brown's ranked the 9th best wide receiver. And then Marquise Brown's ranked 6th. and then Najee's ranked 22nd, and then Kareem Hunt's ranked 21st. So it's kind of like I'm looking at it this way, like, statistically they're even, so nobody can bitch about it saying you're trying to steal or, as my dad likes to say, hope you guys are cold because Rich just got a brand new shipment of fleece sweaters in, because he's always thinking that. Yeah, he's ice cold. He's always thinking I'm fleecing. Mind you, the guy's trying to trade me Nelson Aguilar and Kadarius Toney with some bums. I'm like, yeah, Dad, who's fleecing?
He's trying to be slick.
He always is. He's an old school South Philly guy.
Listen,
he's a slickster.
He wouldn't be an old school guy if he wasn't trying to pull a fast one on his son.
Right. And that's why I'm like, man, I really hope Kamara does something. I just hope the guy plays. That would be fantastic. Yeah. But it's hard, Don, because like you're killing it in our dynasty league. You're doing well in the Golden Mike League. I sneaked by and beat Chip with essentially not starting two people into it, and then I kept Kamara in because I'm like, well, I'm not dropping anybody.
Right. Yeah, so I mean,
beat the chipper.
Listen, and for me, like I'm getting burned on the quarterback situation because I'm like, I'm regretting not addressing that earlier than I did in that draft, because now, like, I took Stafford at one point and I'm getting burned on that.
And he's terrible.
Because he's terrible. Like, I needed in that matchup, I needed 3 points from him, and I got like 2.5
because he threw the pick six
right at the end, right? And yeah, Mike, I'm right there with you. Fuck that, yeah, because. Yeah. As much as I'm doing okay, like Geno Smith is my starting quarterback now because I can't trust Matt Stafford. Yeah. I actually don't even, as much as I would say like it makes sense to put him in that super flex spot, I can't trust him anymore to put him in that super flex spot. So like right now, like I pulled Dobbins off my bench.
Yeah.
And
I sent you a trade for last week.
Right, but now you see why I couldn't move that guy.
I'm not mad at you. And right? I'm not mad at you for it.
And here's the thing that I got pissed off about is like Jahan Dotson was sitting on my bench for the first couple of weeks because I couldn't figure out where to put him in the lineup.
Yeah.
Now I have a spot for him, and he's not playing.
And he's hurt for 2 weeks.
And he's hurt for 2 weeks. So it's like but it's the same thing that happens every year, right? But now I'm looking at and going, all right, well. I sent Jay a couple trades. I sent him some stuff for like Mariota. Yeah. Mariota is a decent fantasy play, better than Stafford is right now.
And this is why I picked up Zach Wilson and Jared Goff, because I'm like,
well, and I had dropped Goff at one point.
You did. I saw that. I'm like, you know what? I have to go for him because I'm like, that's a quality quarterback. The guys looked good, and
now I'm regretting it.
And that's what hurts. And Chris, to answer your question, in a few leagues, I have Josh Allen, who's been obviously immaculate. One league, I have Kyler Murray, who's been fair, not fantastic. Jalen Hurts in a bunch of leagues because I love him. And then my two bigger money leagues, I have Herbert. And then the other league, I had Trey Lance and Russell Wilson, but now I'm pivoting from both of them and starting Kirk Cousins, which I'm not happy about. It's just one of those situations where it's a weird year. It's I'm looking at like this year in a whole, and I have no idea who is good and who is bad because it seems like everybody is bad. But Mike, you did beat the median, so you got your first win. You're 1-7.
There we go. You're 1-7, Mike.
You're on the board. That's all you need. Sometimes all you need to do is spark it. Is just get that one win in your roll.
Mike, I was in that same spot battling to just get back to 500 last year. So I understand. I think I went like the first 4 weeks with losing the game and the median. And like, I think I got myself to like 8th place, which I thought based on the way that I started was a respectable way to finish the season, not in the bottom 2.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like this year is so weird. Like Stafford's terrible because he's only looking for Cup and that offensive line is bad.
Right.
Like that offensive line, they just lost,
So
I think
bad.
they just lost their center. Their backup center, well, not their backup, their starting center because they lost Whitworth, which killed them. I think they're also down like a guard or a tackle. They can't run the ball. They can only dish the ball off to Higbee and Cup, which they run.
Yeah.
It's not even like when Cooper Kupp has 14 catches for 120 yards. It's the same thing I talked about last week. When Marquise Brown has 14 catches for 140 yards. Like, that's not good. Like, it's not efficient. Like, you're barely at 10 or over 10 yards carry or a catch. And that's really not doing much for you. You look at like the quarterbacks in the league, like, yeah, the best quarterbacks are still Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Everybody else is just a crapshoot. Even Herbert, he's got a bad offensive line. Keenan Allen's not there. Like, it's bad. Then you got the underdogs and Trevor Lawrence, who's making a come up, except against the Birds because he fumbled a bunch of times.
Yep.
It's just one of those weird years. Like, who'd thought my 3 third-round picks? I had 3 third-round picks in my home league, and I can't even start any of them, being Kyle Pitts, Allen Robinson, or DJ Moore. Like,
wow.
That absolutely fucking sucks. Like, it hurts so bad because I got Marquise Brown, I think, in like the 5th round. Jalen Waddle was my keeper in a 7th. I'm like, man, my wide receivers are loaded. And now I'm looking, and I have Courtland Sutton too. And now I'm looking like, fuck, man. Like, my wide receivers aren't loaded. Until I made the trade with my dad and got Michael Pittman. But even then, Matt Ryan stinks. So you're looking at fantasy as a whole, and it's just like, I can't even call it anymore of like who's going to perform, because you look at the metrics and some guys are like, oh, they're getting 23% target share, but none of them are catchable targets.
Right.
Like Darnell Mooney has like a 50% target share on his team, but Justin Fields only throws the ball 8 times. So he's getting targeted 4 times out of the 8.
Right.
So are these actual, like, oh, yes, they're great metrics, but are they realistic? Are they sustainable? That's the hard part. So I think from now on going forward, I'm just going to look at my new strategy is, do you play for a good team or do you play for a bad team? I don't want anybody from mediocre teams. I want the guys who are playing for garbage touchdowns, and I want the guys who are going to excel, because it's just been so up and down, Don. Like,
I mean, listen, like even like you look at Rich, like a guy like Wentz, right? As he looks like shit during most games,
but he's a top like.
But
10
at the end of the day, he put in terms of fantasy stuff, because they'll be down late and they'll have to throw the ball. He's putting up decent fantasy numbers. It's such a crapshoot.
And here's the thing. Chris says, "No, Rams beat Dallas." I don't think the Rams beat Dallas.
No.
The Rams look like the Rams are in shambles.
They look terrible. Like they look like a team that is so hungover that they don't even know which way is up.
They're like like not even the good hangover. Like, oh, the Super Bowl hangover, like I can go to work and function. Like my head hurts a little bit. They're like the on the couch throwing up all day, dry heaving at the scent of like boiled meats. Like they're just like they're that badly hungover. And it comes down to you lose pivotal pieces in your offensive line. It shows you how valuable your offensive line is, and it shows you how it can hide a bad quarterback. Because when Matthew Stafford has to make a decision, he's looking at Cooper Kupp or Tyler Higbee, and that's it.
That's it.
Allen Robinson is on the field for 98% of pass plays. He doesn't even look his side. Like, I don't even know if he's open or not, but Matthew Stafford can't see that either because he's not even looking at him. So how can you be a sustainable offense when you can't run the ball at all and you're only looking at one weapon? And teams are like, this is easy to do. You send pressure and you play the sticks because you got to make Cooper Kupp get behind you, and he's not getting behind you when he doesn't have time.
Right. He doesn't have the time to get beyond the DB and sneak past the safety.
He's barely getting time to get past the linebacker.
Correct.
And for fantasy football, 14 catches for 120 yards is fantastic for Cooper Kupp. But for real football, you're not going to win games that way.
No, not at all.
It's not efficient enough. I mean, so it's just been one of those years, man. It's like I just can't call it. Anybody on Pittsburgh is not playable.
Right.
You can't, like Deontay Johnson got robbed last week of that touchdown. That was a touchdown. Like, who'd have thought you would get more fantasy points from Jets players and Jaguars players than you would Steelers?
Yeah.
I'm going to even go as far as to say Browns, just because it's just Nick Chubb and nobody else. Right. It's just nuts, man. Even Dallas, CeeDee Lamb or no one. Yeah. Zeke doesn't look the same. Cooper Rush is whatever. I just have a feeling that Cooper Rush is. It'd be funny if Cooper Rush took that job from Dak.
That would be awesome. I would love it, only because it would just put Cowboys guys, like fans who have invested so much, even just in the jersey alone.
Yeah.
To have them have a guy who they're overpaying so much, who is now the backup. It'll never happen because of the money that they're paying out. But I mean, at the very least, he's looked mildly competent. Like, the funniest thing for me was the Redskins fans and the Cowboys fans battling over that game last week and giving the Eagles fans shit about it, when the week before it's not even a game.
Yeah.
Like, Eagles take care of Washington with, less than a sweat.
Yeah.
And it takes the Cowboys all the way until the fourth quarter to actually make that game, to actually pull away.
The scoreboard was not indicative of how close it was. And
No,
it goes the same I'm sorry. That was for us. The scoreboard was not indicative on how close it was because the Eagles controlled it all the time. The same thing can say for the Cowboys. That game was way closer than what the scoreboard was showing.
Right.
So that 24-10 that the Cowboys beat the Redskins by last week was a joke of a 24-10.
Right.
It should have been a lot closer, but it just shows the ineptitude again of Carson Wentz. And then you look at these teams as the Colts, and Mahomes looked outstanding. How about that game? That crazy jump, like the hook shot throw to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the back of the end zone was just absolutely nuts.
That to me, Rich, puts the whole league on notice, right? Because at the beginning of the year, everybody had so much to say about that division and how that division was just going to eat each other alive. And the Broncos look pedestrian.
If that, I would say pathetic.
Russ looks cooked.
Yes.
The Chargers they ebb and flow based on Herbert.
So but with all the injuries sustained to that team, I don't think they're going to do anything. And then let's be real, the Raiders look atrocious too.
Right. So
they look good because they played the Broncos.
Right. So at the end of the day, like that division that you thought was going to be lights out and you would have maybe multiple wild card, a division winner and maybe a wild card or multiple wild cards come out of that division. It's going to be the Chiefs and then everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, they have I mean, the other teams in that division look like the AFC South. They look like Indianapolis, Jacksonville, like Tennessee. None of those teams look great.
No.
Kansas City just looks like they are right back where they left off.
It's going to be Kansas City, Buffalo in the AFC Championship game.
I hope so. I hope it works out that way, that it doesn't end up like it did last year, where they end up playing in like the divisional round.
No, they need to play in the championship. They both need to be the 1 and the 2. I don't see Buffalo being lower than a 1 or a 2, and the same thing with Kansas City. Because I'm looking at the divisions, even in the NFC, we are far superior to anybody in ours. You go down south, everybody thought that Tampa was going to run away with it. I don't know who's going to win that division. I think the Falcons might actually surprise and possibly entertain for that, which would be absolutely crazy. But Carolina looks terrible. The Saints look terrible. And then you go out west, and let's be real, that's a crapshoot. Anybody can sneak in with that. I still don't think any of them are a threat because Jimmy G is just – Tom Brady is a moron. He loves football more than he loves anything, and that's Tom Brady's problem. But Giselle also isn't a good woman. So I've heard a lot of different things with Giselle not letting Tom see his original son with Michelle Monaghan. And then that's why she says, oh, look, it's my other son. It's my other son. Like, Tom also left a woman who was 9 months pregnant with his baby for Giselle. So, I mean, bad things happen to bad people. So I'm not really upset about Tom Brady. He's a piece of shit. I could care less.
Well, Rich, Giselle Bundchen can now become a part of that infamous list of people that took rings away from Tom Brady.
If she just shacks up with Eli, that would be hilarious.
Right? So you got Eli Manning that took away rings. You got Nick Foles that took away a ring. And now Giselle Bundchen will have what will that be? Like she gets half, so that's she'll have.
She doesn't even need half, dude. She's going to be giving Tom Brady child support. She's going to be paying him alimony. She makes more. Did you see the meme with Patrick Mahomes? He's like, "Yo, man, like something," and he's like, "I'm so jealous of you for something." He's like, "Oh, for the rings." He's like, "Nah, man, for the divorce." I was like, "Oh, that's a good Patrick Mahomes meme." But all right, so let's transition off of fantasy football. We'll wait for Joe.
But hold on.
Here? Oh yes,
we have to debut. We are now going to debut a new segment that we're going to include each week. We had the guys from Losing Sucks Fantasy Football Podcast join us last week. Through a couple of message exchange, we kind of agreed upon a new partnership where they're going to be sending us some football advice. So without further ado, this is the Losing Sucks Fantasy Football advice section of the podcast.
What's up? I'm Travis from the Losing Sucks Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm bringing you a little bit of fantasy football talk as we get into week 5. Got some storylines and a few buy low candidates for you. Starting at the top, Miles Sanders coming off of a monster game. Is he due for another 65-yard, 0-touchdown week that we have seen from him in the past? It can be tough when Jalen Hurts runs one in, A.J. Brown or Goddard or Devontae Smith get the other one or two, and Miles Sanders is left as the short end of the stick of that kind of Russian roulette that you play with the Eagles offense as far as fantasy. In real life, they're unstoppable right now, but do we start to see some inconsistency, or do you get consistency from Miles Sanders? That's one of my questions heading into week 5. Number 2, the Teddy Bridgewater Dolphins, the Flying Fins, as we like to say on our show. Does Teddy help keep the excitement around the Dolphins' weapons, or was there something magic that Tua was doing with Tyreek and Waddle? I personally think that Teddy will be just fine. I think he gives you exactly what Tua gave you, if not a little bit more. I know I'm in the minority in that take. I'm expecting Teddy to give you about 280, 2 to 3 touchdowns through the air, and get over that 20-point mark. Number 3, Jamar Chase is not currently a wide receiver 1, which is really hurting fantasy managers at the moment. We need to see that 100-yard game, maybe 8 to 10 catches, and get a touchdown for Chase for you to start to feel comfortable with the first-round draft capital that you spent on him. You are not moving him at a discount. If at all, you're probably not moving him. I would not move him. If anything, you can try to buy low on him, but it's getting a little frustrating. Come on, Jamar Chase. Number 4, Hollywood Brown is number 3 in targets in the NFL right now. And this is sweet music to all of us who grabbed a lot of Hollywood shares towards the end of draft season. Big play Slay. He will try to make it hard for Brown to produce this week, as he has for a lot of receivers over his career. He's been hot. I think the Cardinals will be trailing a lot in this one, and 10 to 12 targets in a come-from-behind game script. That's going to be tough to keep Hollywood from producing. I like him to be another solid wide receiver 1 week for you. Number 5. Patriots running backs, they get the Detroit Lions this week. Detroit has given up the second most fantasy points to running backs so far this season. I think Harris goes off over 100 yards, maybe 1 to 2 touchdowns. He's coming off of a 19-touch week, so he's clearly the alpha in that backfield. I expect Harris to have a nice day for you. Number 7, Tyler Higbee leads the NFL for tight ends and targets, which is shocking. Nobody would have placed that bet before the season, but here we are. Keep rolling with Higbee based on the volume. If you have Higbee as your second tight end and you have somebody like Pitts or Waller and you just grabbed Higbee later in the draft, I'm okay moving that big name, rolling with Higbee in your tight end spot and trying to upgrade at a different position, especially if you're weak at running back or receiver with the injuries going on right now. Use those big name tight ends like Kittle, Pitts, Waller. Use those guys and just roll Higbee out there. I think your lineup will be better off because of it. Finally, some buy low candidates. Number 1, A.J. Dillon, 18 touches last week. He continues to split evenly with Aaron Jones. He has solid standalone value. If anything were to happen to Jones, Dillon is that league-winning type. I know it sounds cliche, but he is that type of player where all it takes is one little tweak of an ankle or knee, and A.J. Dillon is winning you your league. Number 2, Amari Cooper. Coming off of a 1-point week, you can pull Cooper from a very frustrated owner. Amari was great in weeks 2 and 3, and so far has shown he's their clear favorite weapon through the air. Get him now before he has another 18 to 20-point week, and his price goes back up. Finally, Michael Pittman. Pittman has been killing his owners the last 3 weeks. See what the price is at the moment. It could be very cheap or at least reasonable. The division is easy. He is a big-bodied alpha receiver. Matt Ryan will get Michael Pittman going. There is no doubt about that in my mind. The volume will be great all season. Go get Michael Pittman. Good luck out there in week 5. Losing sucks. Keep winning.
Well said.
Listen.
Well fucking said. Hey, Joe.
Hey. Coming in off the bench. What's going on?
No bench here. No bench here, Joe.
We need another starter. Thank God. Thank God.
But listen, a lot to unpack. But I like the advice is coming from a good place, man.
I bought Pittman and I have Brown, so I'm happy to hear all those things. So let's go. Losing sucks. Gotta win. I'm with it. With it. Yo, what's up, man? Perfect time to talk birds, baby.
Yeah, man. How about our football team? They're doing pretty damn well. I think they're 4-0.
4-0, undefeated.
Undefeated, the one and only.
Dude, it feels so good. Me and Don were talking about this in the beginning. It just feels so good, man. It's coming together.
It is. It really is. It's a great feeling. Rolling on pretty much all cylinders. It's just, you got to make sure that these guys are healthy, and the guys that are question marks, so these guys are going to play this week and as the season progresses. But they have the team. Obviously, they have the team, and the adversity, they're able to, as we saw in the first half of that game, first part of the game, they can rise up. I know we were all sweating bullets when after the pick 6 and that second touchdown, they're like, be patient. I was like, I don't know, man. And then Trevor Lawrence showed up, and then we were good.
Joe, to speak to that real quick, I think a lot of that has to do with something that you heard from Hurts today, right? In that press conference that he had today, right at the very end of it, he's going, wait, what? Nobody's got any questions about the Cardinals? They've got a good defense. They've got speed. They've got playmakers. We're not taking them lightly. I think that mentality is what allows them to be in a position like they were in, down early. Everything's going wrong, but everybody has the mindset that if we keep doing what we're supposed to do, we're going to be okay. Everything's things will turn around. And from that point on, after Jacksonville goes down and scores, they run on 29 straight points. That was the most impressive part to me, was looking at how they responded to that adversity, because up until now, in those first 3 games, they didn't have any adverse situations that they had to play through.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I love the quote. I have to go back and watch that press conference, but the Cardinals on paper, yes, on the field they're dysfunctional, but on paper they still have a lot of talent, and it can't be slept on. And I love the fact that Jalen Hurts isn't overlooking that and saying, okay, we can be 5-0. It's like, no, we do need to take this one game at a time. Because let's be real, anything can happen, right? It's the NFL. Anything can happen. One injury, one bad play can make or break a game. Jalen Hurts last week looked good, didn't look great, especially with the pick 6. But let's be real. The field conditions, we can make all the excuses in the world. He needs to have a bounce back game, regardless of field conditions, weather, everything. You need to come out and you got to be, okay, that was an anomaly. That's the anomaly. That one game in that shitty fucking weather, that's my bad game. But guess what? Here's my baseline, and it's still the 275 for 1 or 2 and running on the ground for 50 and 1. with controlling this offense. You see a lot of great things coming from this offense, and you loved how Driscoll and Dickerson stepped up, especially when Mulatto went down. Like Dickerson was just mauling guys. I was watching the video highlights of how he was just moving people. And that's the thing you need to see. You need to see these guys who don't get all the first team reps coming in and stepping up. This is what Stoutland does best. Okay, this guy's out. This guy's ready to go. You know what we're doing in practice. You go against some of the best in this defensive line and these linebacking core. Nobody can beat you. Go out and stop them. You need to see them not looking at teams as slouches, because you can go into a game and be like, oh, these guys ain't good. These guys ain't good. And all of a sudden you're down 21-0 and it's the first quarter and you're like, fuck, how do I get myself out? And then your whole game plan's thrown out. They need to go into this game with their heads on tight. They need to go in. They got to make a statement. They got to go up early. They need to get on their first drive. They need points. I want to see 7. I'll settle for 3, whatever. But you have to go out there and you have to show them, hey, we're for real 4-0. This isn't a joke 4-0. Yeah, we didn't play the best competition, but look at the competition. We played above it, which they did each time. They never played to a team's level, and that's what you want to see continuing from these Birds. Just because this team isn't good doesn't mean we're going to go out there and we're going to be lazy and we're going to be, lackadaisical with our efforts out there. It's like, no, we are going to go out there. We're going to step on necks, and this is what's going to happen. Get up early on these guys. I still think the final score of this game is going to be 27, 28-10, because we're going to be rolling, but you can never count them out. You make Kyler Murray uncomfortable in the pocket, which he's been all season. Yep. Make him force the ball to Marquise Brown, it's going to be great for fantasy, but it's going to be super inefficient for the play, and stop James Conner. And that's how you're going to win this game.
Right. And they've been able to do that, right? They've been able to establish a dominance on defense, which I think only continues, right? And to me, I look at, like, Rich, some of the guys that you mentioned, right? Driscoll, Sua Opeta, right? Those guys come in and they didn't miss a beat. You got Slay that goes out essentially. I mean, he played 3-4 plays and he was out most of the game. You had guys that stepped up.
Bradbury,
right? Bradbury had a play, like
what a play.
Slay goes down and Bradbury steps in and fills the shoes of a number one, and you didn't miss a beat. Joe, what were you going to say about Bradbury?
No, it was good. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I watched that play over and over again, and how they broke that play down, and how he had the lead receiver going toward the end zone, and he happened to turn around and see Lawrence staring down, the old staring down the receiver, and he jumped on it. Right place, right time. That ball sat up there forever, but he read the quarterback's eyes, and he broke on it, and he made the play. I mean, it's one thing to do it, and it's another thing to execute the play in those kinds of conditions, because those guys play defense for a reason, because, they can't catch. Most of the time they can't catch. So he broke in front of that route, made the play, and it was a huge moment in the game.
Right, because they were about ready to go in and score.
Yeah. They could have gone ahead. It could have changed the whole complexity of the game. But
that's a secondary that was without Slay and without Avonte Maddox.
Yes. And
they still held Christian
this
Kirk.
Team is
Marvin Jones.
They
were invisible.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, once he had his first issue, it kind of just snowballed from there. I guess they didn't practice the wet ball drill like Nick did with the like Nick did. You could tell that they were struggling all game.
Yeah. Listen, you held ETN to 32 yards. You held James Robinson to 29 yards. You held Christian Kirk to 2 catches for 60 yards.
And in garbage time. Because he didn't have a catch until
he was invisible most of the
until
game.
5 minutes in the fourth quarter.
Right. So and this seems to be the recurring theme week after week after week, shutting down the other team's best guys, like not just the best guy, not just the number one receiver, but they're shutting down, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. They're shutting down Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, James Ryan. Like they're shutting down teams' best players every week. And Trevor Lawrence, who looked good in the first 3 weeks, looked every bit of pedestrian in that game.
Looked like a rookie.
Yep.
Right? Looked like a guy who has only played, 1+ season. Like he's, with what did he have four fumbles and an intercept, five turnovers.
Yeah, he was terrible. He fumbled. I think it was a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and he didn't even get the snap.
Oh yeah,
the ball never even got into his hands cleanly. Like that just can't happen. But I think one of the biggest surprises of the game was number 26.
That was incredible.
Talk about it, because he was my key guy. I didn't hit on any key play, right? I thought he'd have I said that he would have a 40+ yard touchdown run. Now, he had a monster career game, but
Shady had this blizzard and Sanders had the hurricane, baby.
Let's see if he can play like this most of the year, one of those two.
You know what the great thing is, Joe? The great thing is about the runs that they were running for him were the trap runs. They weren't the outside zone, stretch runs.
What took so long?
That's what I don't get. Run the trap. The same
That's
play.
What he's good at, yeah.
The same play that Detroit ran against us.
Hey, use your guys how you're supposed to use your guys.
It's crazy. It took Mulata getting hurt and getting out of the game for them to switch it up and go.
I hope they don't. When he comes back in, I hope they don't change it back.
No, I hope they don't either, because they're so much more efficient in between the tackles because they have great guards.
This team has a feel about it that is just, you feel like you're never out of the game. No. And they all trust each other. They're all playing for each other. Hurts could have gone in the tank after that pick 6. He could have gone off a cliff, but he's such an even-keeled guy. Nick's an even-keeled guy. They trust each other. They've got each other's back. 4th and 3, we're down 14-0. You're like, maybe we should kick a field goal. He's like, you know what? I trust you, man. I trust you. That's big. That's huge. Yeah. Telling your quarterback that. And then he goes through his reads, and then he takes off, and you're like, I don't know, is he gonna get there? He takes that shot and falls over the goal line. So, hey, man.
I mean, and Joe, that sequence was something, right? They get the penalty that pushes them back,
yeah,
right, and then he has a 17-yard run on 3rd down, and then they have the confidence to be able to go with him on 4th down and put the ball in his hands again and let him score. I think what we're starting to see is that maturation of week after week, slowly gaining more trust from him, where he has the trust of the coaching staff. He has the trust of the players. I think the trajectory is up. Yeah. You're not seeing when there is a negative dive in that trajectory, right? Yeah. You've got that pick 6. It lasts about this long. It lasts about a microsecond before he's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And he comes right back, leads them right on a drive, right down the field. Like that, to me, is exactly what we're looking for in terms of what we were saying we need to see out of him in this season.
Doug got outcoached.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson got outcoached. And Doug Peterson to Nick Sirianni is like night and day. Mulata went out. They adjusted the run game, and they said, okay, we can't keep running to the outside. We gotta leave it up to the big boys in the middle. We got to run these traps. This is what we're going to do. And they started picking out chunks after chunks after chunks. If that was Doug, they still would have forced the same stretch, and we would have been yelling, why are we not running the ball inside?
Yep.
Doug didn't make those adjustments. Doug looked all happy and fine when they were up 14-0.
Yeah.
And then when they didn't have an answer for the Eagles, Doug looked dumbfounded. And it was the same thing that we saw as Eagles fans when we were down big to teams and how we couldn't climb out of those holes. It's not the fact that Doug's a bad coach. He's a great players coach, but he also doesn't adjust. So you could tell his big adjustment was, we're down, bringing the pass catching back in ETN. That was it. And they couldn't even get him involved because he was just getting shut down. They couldn't work up plays to get their best wide receiver open because Christian Kirk was covered like a fucking blanket all game.
Yep.
and they weren't even utilizing their tight end. So how they thought they were going to win that game after they got two lucky, I'm going to say lucky touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the game. Well, they found out. They fucked around. They stuck around. They found out. And they realized that, shit, this Eagles team does not die. They never say die to the Goonies. And we played a good game. And now I'm just looking forward to this week. We have another coach who doesn't make any adjustments that we're playing against, in Cliff Kingsbury, who I think is one of the most overrated, probably one of the worst coaches in the league, second behind Matt Rule. Third, I say Matt Rule, Cliff Kingsbury, and Nathaniel Hackett, because I think Hackett is one of the even though he's only been in the league like a head coach for 4 games, he looks absolutely dog shit. I just think,
not to move off the tight ends real quick, but like talk about Goddard, because Goddard, the way that they're utilizing him in that screen game,
that's ridiculous.
Is huge, and he is every bit of the yak catching tight end that Zach Ertz wasn't.
And that's exactly what you want. He's a big bruising guy. And I love the physicality aspect of him. When he catches those screens, he fights for yards. He will hit a guy. He's not just going down. When he catches a jump ball or a ball that's thrown to the sidelines, he's still trying to fight for 1 or 2 yards. When he goes across the middle and he catches a slant, he's trying to fight for 3 more yards. When he finds a soft spot in the zone, he's not catching a ball and falling on his back and his ass and rolling like Zach Ertz. And it makes me laugh because it's like, as Chris says, don't forget about Zach Ertz on the Cardinals. I'm not worried about a guy who is one-dimensional. He is a catch-the-ball guy. That's it. He is I'm going to catch the ball and fall down. And the routes that he's running in Arizona are all 5-yard routes. Okay, leave him open all day. What are they going to do? Absolutely nothing. Because they're going to get stuffed on first down. They're going on second down. They're going to throw to Zach Ertz, and it's going to be 3rd and 5. And then Kyler Murray's going to fuck up because Cliff Kingsbury can't coach his way out of a wet paper bag. They're not a bad team on paper.
No,
not at all.
Their coaching is
they can't get out of their own way.
Good. No, they can't. Kyler Murray's best asset is his legs, and he doesn't run. He refuses to run because he's afraid of getting hit, because every time he gets hit, he gets a shoulder injury. And he's always sidelined. The guy is terrified to play football, which is why he should have stuck to baseball.
Hopefully he continues to be terrified this week.
And that's what's going to happen. He's going to get hit. And honestly, I'm not even saying this because I don't wish it on anybody, but I have a feeling that he doesn't make it out of this game, and it's going to be something because he gets hit. It's not going to be like an outrageous like late hit. It's not going to be anything anybody did. It's just there's going to be contact to this dude's shoulder, and he's going to be out. Because it seems like anytime this dude is remotely hit hard, he's out of the game. And I don't know if it's a mental thing, or what, but I just don't understand why Kyler Murray's playing football. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
because he's really not looking good at it this year.
Yeah, between the guaranteed money in Major League Baseball, right? That alone is enough to make you say, like, maybe it might be a little bit easier to play shortstop for the A's.
Does any? All right, I'm not, because we're not taking Arizona lightly, but what is your main concern? What is the threat that Arizona poses to this Eagles team?
It's a good question.
I
think it would be. It's going to be. Go ahead, Don.
Sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think it's going to be. It's going to be more about us beating ourselves than them beating us. If we have a game like we did against Jacksonville and it snowballs, obviously, a game in that situation would be, a one way we could lose. I don't think Arizona has enough firepower other than Kyler Murray. It would be a different story if, DeAndre Hopkins was healthy.
Right.
But I just, Marquise Brown is a nice player, but he's really boom or bust. And if with our, look, I think they cleared Slay today. I think he's playing Sunday. I think I saw that today. I I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw that they cleared him. Slay and Bradbury back there. I don't think he really stands much of a chance. You just got to keep him in the pocket.
Like you could say Hollywood Brown is going to be a guy that, could get loose beyond the defense, but I think that's assuming that he's able to, beat the bump and run and get off the line and get a free run and run beyond the safety.
Yeah.
Which, based on the way that this defense is played, I don't really
likely. Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
Right.
James Conner has 145 yards through 4 games. Right. He's not doing anything special. So I just don't see the guys on offense to be able to, one, get open on the guys that the Eagles have on defense, but 2, I don't see them. I don't see how they put up points. When I match up offense and defense, like the Eagles offense matches up really well with their defense.
Yeah.
In terms of the offensive, the guys that are going to be able to get in space and be able to make plays. And I don't see guys on their team that are making plays based on the guys we have on defense. So on paper, right, Joe, I think what you said at the very beginning is completely accurate. The only way that this game becomes competitive is if the Eagles play down to their competition.
Agreed.
They go out west. Do they struggle traveling, going out west? And
it's a 4:00 game.
But it's a 4:00 game there, so it's like,
which is not really like
kind of like a 1:00 game here.
Yeah, it's not like the West Coast is traveling over here and playing a 1:00, because then it's usually the opposite. But it's usually it's kind of even when it's a 4:25 game over there. So I'll take it. But shout out to Libby, because I agree with her statement. Phillies suck. Eagles will win. Yes, I agree.
Hey, listen, I'm not hating on anybody right now. I'm in a good place.
I was so mad they made the playoffs. I'm not even so mad.
You were mad?
I was mad.
I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying this.
Because it puts money. It puts money in the owner's pocket.
They won, but they got in by default.
Yeah. On a national scale, they're going to watch us get swept by St. Louis, and they're just going to be like, well, we made the playoffs, and that's all we're going to hear from diehard Phillies fans.
I don't know.
And they keep using Uncle Jack's likeness, and he's not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Pay my man. Pay my goddamn man. Shout out to Uncle Jack. But what do we all right, so we got to go final score and
final score. And then can we circle back real quick, because we skipped the elephant in the room from last week.
Okay.
Which was Hassan Reddick.
Oh yeah.
And he was your key play.
He was my key play.
He was your key play with the strip sack.
He plays, man. He plays.
You probably had the key play that was probably as close to whatever happened, because you had a strip sack. It didn't get recovered and run back for a touchdown, but multiple strip sacks, multiple fumbles, multiple pressures, right? Defensive player of the week in the NFC.
They're finally fucking using him right, Don. It's amazing when you use players to their strengths. We talked about this last week. Same reason why Bill Belichick is successful with all these half dumbwit players, then they go elsewhere and they get paid and then they get cut and they go back. You use players to your strengths. This guy's a pass rusher, you use him to pass rush. You do not use him to cover. If this guy's good at covering in zone, he's a zone guy. This guy's a man guy. It's fucking insane. Thank you, John Gannon, for not being a fucking moron for one more week and letting Hassan Reddick eat.
Right. And it's a different guy every week.
Brandon Graham.
It's
Fletcher Cox. How about Fletcher Cox? Young and spry again.
It's about time we had a sight.
Young and spry.
Jordan Davis, right? Jordan Davis.
This is just a freaking redwood tree. That play, he just went around that guy like he wasn't even there.
He's so big. He's so graceful.
All right, Rich. Key play.
I'm going to go with, it's going to be, final score, I already said 28-10. And it's going to be 21-10 in the fourth quarter. Arizona is going to get good field position. They're going to look the drive. There's going to be a deep ball thrown, and it's going to be intercepted by Gardner Johnson. And then that is what's going to run the clock off for the rest of the game. Eagles are going to have a nice 8-minute drive after that.
Okay.
And handily win 28-10.
Joe, what do you got?
I got two players, 2 plays. Both in the fourth quarter. Hassan Reddick with a sack going against his former team, trying to prove a point. And I think Dallas Goedert wants to have a big showing this week, going against his mentor. I think he's going to have a touchdown. Let's go with a 19-yarder in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And then Hassan Reddick with a big sack in the fourth quarter to kill a Arizona drive. 27-20 Eagles.
Ooh, okay.
A little closer than expected. But hey,
right.
A win is a win, right?
A win is a win.
They all count the same, Joe. 1 point, 20 points. It's all the same.
Half point.
Joe, in my mind, I was kind of in your revenge brain, thinking like Hassan Reddick and Zach Ertz, but when I came down to it, right, this is another opportunity for the Eagles to put their skill position players on display. You're in a dome. You're in Arizona. You got no weather. I think they go back to AJ Brown. I think they go back to Devontae Smith. I'm going to go with those 2 guys. Those 2 guys are going to be my key players. I'm going to say that they both put up 100+ yards.
Ooh.
And both get tutties.
I like it.
I'm going to go like 28-14, 28-17, something like that.
I like it.
That works.
Listen, if you're out and about, anybody, if you're listening and you're out and about, you're at a tailgate, pregame, postgame, at the game, we're going to need you to call the Broad Street line. Philly, I'm calling you out. The Broad Street line has been light.
It's been very light.
We need
it's been light that there's no one calling. So
Super light.
Super light.
We want to hear. So listen, here's what we need.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
We need you to call. I'm calling you.
I'm calling you out. Give me your number. I'm going to call you bastards. Leave them in the fucking comments. I'm going to call you. Leave you an angry voicemail. Go Birds. Go Birds.
Oh, I love it.
I just think Eagles fans are just getting complacent. They're like, "Oh, we're winning. You know, it's no big deal to us. I'm not going to get fired up." I'm thinking they're just becoming mundane. I think they're starting to become Patriots fans. Fair weather losers.
Say that.
I don't want to say it, but I feel it. I feel it in the plums.
Oh my God. Stop. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I was reading yesterday about women's soccer and the Sally Yates article that was written. I don't know if you guys
No.
So apparently there was a bunch of different coaches in women's soccer, the women's soccer league in the U.S., and a bunch of sexual assault, verbal harassment, and a lot of things that got swept under the rug. A lot of predatory behavior toward these women, toward these professional athletes. Let me say that again. To these professional athletes. These coaches were making insinuations of, their sex lives, and saying, "Oh, if you don't do, for every one thing you don't get right, I'm going to touch you." Making innuendos and all this shit. Like, it was like 5 coaches who were all released from their jobs. One who I believe was in line to coach the national women's soccer team. And mind you, some of the members of the women's national soccer team were part of this. We're on these teams where women were being harassed and verbally abused and assaulted. And there's just no place for it. It's just fucking sick. Like, men feel like so entitled when they're working around women to be able to be like, hey, let's say this, let's say that without consequence because they're women. And I think that's the mindset that I hate, because it's all fun and games to joke around and to say things, but to act so lewd and so cruel and spit in women's faces and touch them inappropriately multiple times on multiple occasions, and to think that's right and nothing will happen. And then the league just sweeps it under the rug, and these coaches are fired without reason, but there's just cause, but they don't release the reasons. And then these guys go and be scouts for the women national team, or they go and be assistants on other teams to continue to allow this predatory behavior. It was sickening. And if you get a chance to read the article, my wife fell asleep and I put on a TV show, and I looked online and I saw Sarah Spain posted something about it. I'm like, I have to read this. I'm like, she usually is all for the women's rights and she loves soccer. And I'm like, I have to look up the Sally Yates investigation. And it was all about the soccer league, the women's soccer league in America, and all this behavior. And it's just sickening. It needs to stop. It needs to stop on all levels. You see what the girls are going through in Iran right now, and you see just all over. Like, it's not a woman's movement. It should be an us movement. It should be as a people movement, because let's be real. Some of you have daughters. Don, you have a daughter. I don't have a daughter, but I have a mother, sister, and a wife. And I have, I have nieces. I have, women in my family. And I couldn't imagine them making it to the national scale of being a professional athlete and them still being downgraded and treated that way. I don't want them treated any differently or preyed upon at any level. And then let alone these are professional athletes who are going through this. It's just sickening. And we need to put a stop to it. There was a lot of hard to read things in that article. And I read the whole thing from two different sites. I read the ESPN one, and I believe I read the it might have been the New York Times or the Washington Post one. And the ESPN one was a little more graphic and a little more detailed, but it kind of paints the picture of how we are with, like, systemically against women. And it's just sad. It's sad, and it needs to stop. And whatever we can do as men of this podcast, as men, as this country, and men in this world, we need to start sticking up for our women. And we need to start holding them to a higher pedestal. It's fucking crazy that we can go and marry women and say that we're going to care and love and defend them, but we do such a poor job at really defending them. And I think we need to be better with that. And it was sickening. I want everybody to read it and just become enlightened on what the fuck is going on within the United States and on a professional scale, because it was sad. It was really sad. It was nuts.
There's just no place for it. There's just no place for it at all.
And I'm gonna chime in on that, Don, before you do yours. There's a couple different topics I wanted head bouncing around in my head, and I guess kind of just to go off of what Rich said, the whole thing with Antonio Brown. I'm all about people getting a second chance, or getting the chance to rehab themselves or fix whatever is going on or whatever is wrong with them. But there comes a point in time where you got to say enough is enough, and it's disturbing, it's disgusting, it's humiliating, to see somebody just act so careless, around women. It's just, it's hard to even talk about, because it makes me mad, and it makes me just want to jump through I see him on TV. I just want to jump through the screen and choke him out. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's got, clearly there's something wrong in his head. I think he needs to hang it up and get real medical help, because there's something wrong with him for him to be acting the way that he does and think that it's funny or trying to show up. It's not funny, man. It's not funny.
Yeah. And
you need help.
He's a disturbing individual.
You need to cut the shit and stop acting like a fucking asshole.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Joe, to see some of the stuff that I saw with him, it's bonkers. And it makes you really question the people around him too.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because it's
He
not
clearly
just
is
him.
he has the wrong,
Right.
he's in the wrong, he's got the wrong click. He's got the wrong click.
He's surrounded himself with people that are yes people that are not going to say no.
Yo, you cut the shit, man.
Because of all the things that come with.
They just want his money.
Right. He's posting pictures with Giselle, the whole thing with Tom. That, like, come on, man.
It's there's such a bigger mental health piece with him that it's the kind of thing that unless he's willing to ever address it, it's gonna be Groundhog Day. He's gonna do the same shit for years and years and years. It'll never.
They need to stop giving him airtime. They need to stop talking about it. They don't put his face online and on TV anymore because everybody's over it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
everybody's over it. If it was you or I, we'd be in fucking jail.
Yeah.
Really?
Especially after exposing yourself in a pool in front of everybody.
Like, come on, dude.
On camera.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, on camera. Great guy.
Well, listen, gentlemen, to wrap up, final thoughts, right? Rich, I told you at the beginning, right? You were talking about the Sirianni press conference with his son. Told me a lot about him without saying any words. He, at that press conference, is, and in last week's final thoughts, right? We were talking about this tragic event that happened outside of Roxborough High School where kids are ambushed and get shot, and one kid passes. Sirianni has a shirt from Roxborough High School on at the press conference, which to me immediately says he understands that it's bigger than football.
Yeah.
That he's just not in his office for 19 hours a day, that he's aware of the things that are going on around him, that he's aware of things that are going on in the city, that he knows that it's about more than just football. So that to me made me I saw that, and that just made me super proud because it's one bringing it's bringing awareness, but he gets it.
He gets it.
And someone else who gets it. I saw something that made me smile so big. John Cena just set the Guinness Book of World Records for the most wishes granted.
Yeah.
That he's granted somewhere between 650 and 700 Make-A-Wishes through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So, again, someone who gets that it's much bigger than just them and is using their platform to make the world a better place, man. So, huge shout out to those two guys.
We need good people in the world.
We need more good. Right. We need more good stuff in the world. So listen, gentlemen, it's been real. Rich, take us out.
You stuck around. You fucked around. You found out. Fuck Deshaun Watson. Fuck Spike Eskin. Fuck Ben Simmons. Fuck Antonio Brown. And fuck all the predators out there in the world who are preying on our women. Fuck you all. But you know what it is, baby? It's go Birds. Beating the Cardinals. Let's go Philly. Call the line or I'm calling you. And you don't want to.
Let's go Birds! Yeah, baby! Woo!
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby!
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings! Said!